The Iranian regime is officially tearing itself apart from the inside. A bitter civil war has erupted inside the government, with rogue military commanders desperately trying to sabotage their own diplomats before they even go to Pakistan to negotiate. Take a look at this report. Senior Iranian officials are locked in a dispute over the composition and authority of the delegation set to negotiate with the United States in Islamabad. The IRGC commander-in-chief, Ahmad Vahidi, is seeking to curb the authority of the Speaker of the House and Foreign Minister IRGC in the talks. Vahidi has also pushed for the inclusion of a new guy, Secretary of the Supreme National Security Council, in the negotiating team. This move is opposed by the current members of the negotiating team, who consider this new guy lacking experience for strategic negotiations. At the same time, Vahidi and the IRGC Aerospace Force commander have stressed that the delegation must avoid any negotiations over Iran's missile program. Now, this is something we have noticed before too. The IRGC has increased their control over the Iranian society since this war began, and now the IRGC commanders want to make sure they don't lose that control because of some negotiations that civilian leaders are doing overseas. But you see, this split isn't just at the top. We're seeing the same thing happen inside of the Iranian society, specifically the members who support the Islamic Republic. There are a lot of supporters who are actually now protesting against the foreign minister and against the speaker who are involved in the negotiations. Just take a look at this clip where people are protesting against the foreign minister who's, I'm guessing, driving somewhere. Take a look.
Oh, Westerners, curse your parents, Mr. Arachi. May they put dust on your head. Look, people are having a stroke in front of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. By the Quran, they are having a stroke, shouting and rioting. Curse your father, your actions, curse your existence, curse your head. May they put dust on your head. May they put dust on your head.
Some Iranians see negotiations with America as betrayal, but nonetheless, the negotiations seem to be moving forward. So let's talk about the negotiations itself. As you guys may remember from yesterday, talks were supposed to happen Friday, so they were supposed to happen today, but it seems like they have been pushed back again. Pakistani officials who are mediating these negotiations are telling the media that talks are now expected to be pushed back to weekend, meaning they're supposed to take place over the weekend. And on top of that, they expect it to be a multi-day process that could go as deep as Monday or even Tuesday. Now, yesterday we talked about how some Iranian officials said that they will pull out of talks unless there's a ceasefire in Lebanon too. Iran's position is basically that this was something that was agreed in the initial ceasefire deal. But the United States and Israel are saying that Lebanon wasn't something that was agreed on. But luckily, President Trump put out this statement yesterday basically saying that Prime Minister Netanyahu is on board with the agreement, the ceasefire agreement, and he's going to be more low-key on Hezbollah inside of Lebanon. Those weren't my words, those were his. Trump also put out a statement basically calling out Iran and saying that Iran is not holding up their side of the deal. As you guys may remember, Iran is supposed to be opening up the Strait of Hormuz, and US in return stopped the bombings. Well, President Trump put out a statement saying that Iran is doing a very poor job, dishonorable job of allowing oil to go through the Strait of Hormuz. This is not the agreement we have. Now, based on public maritime data, we can see that the traffic through the Strait of Hormuz hasn't really even gone up since the ceasefire has taken effect. And that means Iran is really not doing anything from their side. Basically, everything they have agreed to, they haven't done. They are still bombing the Gulf countries. Just last night, we heard Kuwaiti officials announce that their air defenses were activated to take down a drone attack. Now, there is a caveat here. The attacks on Gulf countries have gone down tremendously. So that is some positive sign, but nonetheless, a ceasefire means the firing needs to be ceased, and that doesn't seem like that's happening. In fact, if you look at from a bird's eye view, you see that no one's really holding up their end of the ceasefire except the United States. The US has stopped the bombing, but Iran has still continued to attack the Gulf countries. Iran has still kept the Strait of Hormuz basically closed down. And then on the other side, we have Israel and Hezbollah still continue fighting. Israel is striking Hezbollah locations, and Hezbollah is firing rockets inside of Israel. Now, luckily, yesterday we did get some positive news relating to Israel-Hezbollah war. Israel announced that they will be negotiating with Lebanon next week. Now, unlike the Iran-US talks, there is no ceasefire that has been announced from the Israeli side for Lebanon, only negotiations. That means fighting is still continuing, but it has gone down tremendously compared to the first day of the ceasefire. But despite all this chaos, we also have positive signs. Vice President JD Vance just left for Pakistan this morning, and here's his statement before he boarded the Air Force 2. I'm not sure what the Vice President's plane is called, but I think it's called Air Force 2 before he boarded Air Force 2. Take a listen.
We're looking forward to the negotiation. I think it's going to be positive. We'll, of course, see. As the President of the United States said, if the Iranians are willing to negotiate in good faith, we're certainly willing to extend the open hand. If they're going to try to play us, then they're going to find that the negotiating team is not that receptive. So we're going to try to have a positive negotiation. The President has gave us some pretty clear guidelines, and we're going to see. So I hope you guys have a safe flight. We'll certainly take some questions later on, but for now, let's get on the plane and hit the road. Thank you all.
Now, you have to assume that the United States got some assurances, either from Pakistan or Iran, that the Iranian delegation will be coming for the negotiations. Otherwise, the Vice President would not be so publicly flying to Pakistan. If Iran doesn't show up, it has to be a bit embarrassing for the US and for everyone else who's involved. Now, before we talk about the negotiations, we do have to mention that if they do take place, it would be an historic event. And here's the reason why. This negotiation meeting would be the highest level meeting between the United States and Iran since the Islamic Revolution took place in 1979. Previously, we had President Obama calling the Iranian president during the 2015 talks, or I think 2013. And before that, we had Secretary of State John Kerry meeting with his Iranian counterpart, Iranian foreign minister. But this time, we have a US Vice President, the number 2 person in the country, meeting with an Iranian delegation. Historic for the Islamic Republic because they have never met with someone this high up from the American side. Pakistani officials are saying that they have confirmation that an Iranian delegation will come to Islamabad in Pakistan on Friday night for this meeting. Now, they're not really clarifying the time zone, but I'm guessing they mean Friday night Pakistani time. So that would basically be when you guys are watching the video. So if there's any confirmation of the delegation actually leaving Iran and getting to Pakistan, I'll put it in the pinned comments below. Now, Iran and Pakistan do share a border, so it's probably not a long flight, and compared it to the US flight, which is I think around 16 hours if you want to go from Washington DC to Pakistan. So that's definitely a long flight, so it makes sense Vice President Vance left so much earlier than the Iranian delegation, because for them it's probably going to be like an hour or 2 hours of flying. But you see, the issue is not the flying time, the issue is the statements that are coming out from the Iranian officials. Basically, the officials who are supposed to take part in this negotiation meeting. Now, before we get into that, just a quick reminder for everyone to hit the like and subscribe button down below. It really does help us out. Over the last few weeks, for some reason, our videos are not really going to people who are not subscribed. At least that's what is showing us on the back end. So if you're someone who's not subscribed, be sure to hit the subscribe button down below. It truly does help us out, and you can keep watching our future videos. Now let's get on to the Iranian statements. You see, all the while Pakistanis are confirming that Iran will come, Iranian officials are saying something entirely different. Take a look at this statement. This statement is from the parliament speaker of Iran, who the United States sees as the guy inside of Iran, the guy who has the most amount of power. And he says, 2 measures mutually agreed upon have yet to be implemented: a ceasefire in Lebanon and the release of Iranian blocked assets prior to the negotiations. Both must be fulfilled before talks begin. Now, this is crazy for multiple reasons. First of all, we have never heard about these blocked assets until JD Vance actually got on a plane. Once he was in the air, that's when Iran announces this new condition. Now, to be fair to Iran, there is a good chance that this is not a new condition because both sides have not made public the deal that they agreed on, the ceasefire deal. So maybe this was part of the ceasefire deal, but we just don't know. But publicly speaking, this is the first time anyone is bringing up these blocked assets. Now, there is a chance this is just rhetoric. You know, Iranian officials have a habit of saying one thing publicly and doing something completely different behind the scenes. We have seen that pattern before. But if this is actually real, if they're actually adding on conditions while the US side is flying to Pakistan, then this could go horribly wrong. Maybe Iran is hoping that the US will give up more concessions because America doesn't want to be embarrassed landing in Pakistan with no Iranians showing up. But there's also the other side. There's a chance that the United States gets really pissed off and the war escalates to levels we haven't seen before. And I want to remind everyone, just before the ceasefire, the war was supposed to escalate to a level where everyone was freaking out. It was going to escalate to targeting Iranian bridges, Iranian power plants, something that Iran was not ready for. So there's a very good chance that Iran is playing a very, very dangerous game. Now, as I said before, this situation is progressing basically by the hour, meaning we have new statements coming out from people involved in all this every single hour, so situation could change. And as I said, by the time you guys see this video, if the Iranian delegation is going to Pakistan, I'll put it in the pinned comment so you'll have that update. But for now, this is all we know, so let's shift our focus to the Strait of Hormuz. Now, Iran claims the Strait of Hormuz is open, but the ships have to pay a massive fine or a massive toll, whatever you want to call it. Here's more details.
Yeah, hey guys, good morning. With high-stakes talks scheduled this weekend in Islamabad, Pakistan, an Israeli intelligence official tells Fox News Iran is indeed demanding fees for the few vessels it's allowing to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. This official adds the strait is effectively under full IRGC control. They decide who gets to go through, but more importantly, who doesn't. I am told that there is intelligence being shared in the intel community about how Iran is trying to tighten its grip on this strait ahead of the negotiations this weekend. Overnight, President Trump taking to Truth Social to talk about the issue, saying, quote, Iran is doing a very poor job, dishonorable, some would say, of allowing oil to go through the Strait of Hormuz. That is not the agreement we have. With just 8 vessels.
Iran is demanding roughly $1 extra per barrel. That basically works out to $2 million for a very large tanker. That's because a large tanker carries around 2 million barrels of oil in one go. So a big ship would be paying $2 million a fine, while smaller tankers would pay less. Still a fortune to people who are shipping the oil. Now, regarding all this, Iran has been putting out statements basically saying that they want permanent control of the Strait of Hormuz in the negotiations. And people who don't really follow geopolitics closely are freaking out, basically saying that this is going to change the world forever. Now, I'm not saying that Iran may not come out ahead in the negotiations. That's still possible. That depends on what type of concessions the US is willing to give up. But one thing that US will never agree to, or the world will never agree to, is Iran getting permanent control of the Strait of Hormuz. There are UN laws against this. There are other countries who are bordering the strait who would not want this. And then, of course, there are just international countries like European countries, Asian countries who would not want this. Why would Gulf countries agree to Iran charging a toll? They are right next to the strait too. Why shouldn't they get the toll and Iran get it? You get what I mean? And then on the other side, this is something I have mentioned before too. If Iran gets to charge a toll on the Strait of Hormuz, does Singapore get the same thing on the strait that's on their border? Does the UK get a toll on their border too, and then Spain gets the toll on their border? This could very easily become a very big deal if Iran does get a toll on the Strait of Hormuz. Then every country would want to do it. And think about if I'm a politician in these other countries. And I could easily make an argument that, hey, if our ships are paying a toll on the Iranian Strait of Hormuz, why shouldn't we charge tolls for other countries too? Otherwise, our businesses are just competing on a disadvantaged position, you know? And the other side of this is, of course, just because Iran can shut down the Strait of Hormuz doesn't mean they own it. Because think about it. I'm a guy who has no private jets, no Air Force, or no Navy, right? I can buy a drone off of Amazon, fly it near an airport, and shut down an airport. That doesn't mean airlines have to pay me a small fee on the tickets they're selling. So just because a country can shut down a strait doesn't mean they get to charge a toll on it, because there's going to be a massive international backlash. And this is something we saw last year. Houthis shut down the Bab al-Mandab Strait and they did not get to charge a toll on it. In fact, there was a deal and they basically stopped attacking the ships. Even to this day, during the war, in a war where Iran is basically getting decimated militarily speaking, Houthis are not really shutting down the Bab al-Mandab Strait because they know that can create a massive backlash. So yeah, even though Iran is publicly saying that they want the control of the strait publicly, the chances of that happening is very, very low. Now, to understand why Iran is behaving the way it's behaving right now, we have to go back and look at how Iran got to where it is today. That doesn't just mean going back to 1979 when the Islamic Revolution took place. In fact, we have to go further back to when the Qajar dynasty was ruling Iran in the 19th century and look at how the decisions the ruling class made back then still affects Iran to this very day. Well, guess what? That's exactly what we're doing in our multi-part podcast that just came out today. So if you're someone who's interested in the history of Iran and how we got to where we are today, definitely go check it out. You can watch it by clicking the links in the description, or you can just watch it by clicking the end screen on your screen, basically clicking the video that's on your screen.